Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Stardust here. Welcome to episode 3 of Community Voices. I am here today with a member of the Avengers Discord moderating team, a YouTuber with years of experience with 1,000 subscribers who never originally did Avengers content. We'll get to that shortly. And, of course, one of my besties, Sonicphoto. Sonic, how you doing?
I'm doing good. That's quite the introduction. I like it.
It's good. I had to fill you up with confidence and like a bunch of love before we got into this. So, Sonic, first of all, just I want to hear a little bit about yourself because you're not in your content. You're not really one to, talk about yourself a lot. It's very much Avengers based. You're very sort of professional with the way your content comes across. So, is there sort of anything you would like people to know about yourself before I delve into it?
Um, what specifically
Just
do you like me to talk
genuine
about?
stuff about your life, whatever you feel sort of comfortable before we dive right in, because obviously a lot of your content, you don't sort of open up and be like, hi guys, I'm this age, my name is this. You talk about Avengers mostly, so I feel like people would want to get to know sort of the basics. So say you were introducing yourself to like someone for the first time, that sort of information.
Well, I like a lot. Well, I started on YouTube as mainly doing gaming content, but my whole passion, if a lot of people don't know about, comes from my passion for film. I studied film production. So that's one of the things that I explored YouTube because I wanted to do that type of career, and I use that as like my own personal training for film. So
That's
that's one of the things some people might not know about. And for those that still don't know by now, but I am from Puerto Rico as well, and my primary language is actually Spanish, not English.
You wouldn't have been able to tell that because obviously in your commentary you do really like your English is really really good. Where did you learn to sort of like where did your English come from? Where did you learn that? Did you do a class? Did you just pick it up from like movies? Because obviously you said you're into film. Like where'd you learn English?
Well, mostly in school, but in college, but a lot of it was also with movies and video game stories as well, because you eventually put a lot of subtitles, closed captions on those movies, and you start to learn and understand like the language and the different accents that people have with the language.
So, as obviously not a English first language content creator, how was it like doing commentary for like videos and stuff like that? Because I would imagine that there would be a bit of like fear there of people not being able to understand you as well. Because obviously we have a lot of content creators in this community who you know some people may struggle to understand their accents. So no disrespect to these content creators, but like Tony Bing, for example, right? Very thick accent. Some people struggle to understand him. So how did you feel commentating with like a different kind of accent?
I It was a lot of fear. That was one of my biggest fears when I was doing more informative Avengers content, when I was starting to report on news and things like that, because I wasn't sure if people would understand me very well in terms of my accent and the language itself.
Is it?
Um,
Sorry, my apologies, cut you off there.
no, no, yeah, but the reception has been good. There's definitely that fear that making sure that people really understand what you're trying to say.
For sure, yeah, and I definitely feel like your content is able to get across what you're saying because obviously, Mister like 1,000 plus subscribers over here, the marketplace guru. Which I should probably ask about that actually. What sort of made you want to do content on Avengers specifically? Because obviously there's a lot of games out there in the world. There's probably more games than Avengers you enjoy. So what made Avengers the game that you wanted to kind of put a lot of dedication to?
That's a very good question. I think my attention to Avengers was because it was one of those games played from the launch, from the very beginning. So I got the opportunity to learn about how the game works and everything going on in terms of the community, what people asking them more in terms of questions. So I started to look for what kind of things were not being covered when it came to Avengers. Um, so I looked for what people were asking the most in terms of guides, people that wanted to know, oh, how do I solve this? How do I grind for this? And then for like things like the marketplace, I saw that people like to stay updated with shop rotations in other games, and I didn't see like anyone was actually actively doing that. So that's when my idea to tackle that came in.
I would say that your marketplace videos are probably some of your most popular content that you do on your YouTube channel. Is it kind of one of those situations where if the marketplace is lacking for a week, at least into like, the popular opinion is that the marketplace is lacking for a week. Do you get sort of afraid that you being the marketplace guy might bring that criticism over to your channel? So say for example, the week is a bunch of recolors and people aren't very happy about it. Do you see that you get a lot of comments of people complaining like you're the person who put the skins up, or?
A few times. For the most part, they tend to focus more on mentioning the developers or the company when they get mad about the recolors.
Mm.
But sometimes it comes off like they're mad at me, like if I'm like an official account just sharing the marketplace.
Well, for sure. I mean, because the way obviously you do the marketplace videos are quite professional in the sense that you don't talk over them. There's Avengers music in the background. It's a slow rotation. It's kind of like one of those telly shopping shows that you see at like 2 a.m. where
Yeah.
it's like, so it's, I mean, it's quality stuff. So with that in mind, then obviously you're not one to really do build kind of content or anything like that. Obviously you do guides and you've done your battery series recently, but you said that you were looking through different content creators and getting suggestions from people who are struggling with certain things. What kind of put you off doing the typical style, like I don't know, 100k damage build videos and stuff like that?
Yeah, for that I just saw like that was mostly the content I could find. It was mostly like Hulk builds making a ton of damage, and I wasn't very knowledgeable on those builds just yet. I was still getting to learn the basics of the game, so I just kind of focused like what more the casual audience that's still learning of the game had questions about. So like just learning how to level up, how to gear up, because I know a lot of people had questions of best ways to gear up. So I just kind of tackle that more casual player that's still getting to know the game itself.
I think that a lot of casual players are always jumping into Marvel's Avengers, especially with the upcoming Black Panther DLC. So I think that
Hmm.
channels like yourself, guide videos and stuff, are always, so important. But Avengers wasn't your original content. You did a lot of stuff before then, about 10 plus years on YouTube, I believe, right?
Yeah, I tried many things.
Would you,
Some
yeah?
didn't
Would you like
take
to go
off that
through?
much, but
Would you like to go through them? And also, not just that, but not just going through your content, but what kept you so resilient throughout the years?
yeah, well, I started out at my younger age. That was just simply exploring video editing. I was starting just to learn with video editing, and so I started doing stop motions with action figures and stuff like that. That was very early YouTube days, really. YouTube has changed so much since when I started doing that.
Yeah, I remember.
And
Oh, sorry, my sorry. I got
no, no,
excited.
you're fine.
No, but yeah, sorry. Continue.
And after that, the other big game that I tackle on was Disney Infinity for a while because I got involved with the level designing that players could do in that game called the Toy Box, and that's where I started to get a couple more views. But then that game eventually closed down, so I couldn't really continue with that game forward.
I also noticed, like, if you don't mind me sort of going into it, is that obviously your name Sonicphoto. You used to do a lot of Sonic related content back in the day. Tell us about that. Tell
Yeah.
us about sort of like your clear love for Sonic the Hedgehog. You know, it's a bit it's a slight giveaway, but where did that come from, and has that kind of helped you get a bit of inspiration for just yourself in general?
Yeah, the whole name of Sonic which came up from I was very pumped with the game Sonic Adventure 2. That was like the first Sonic game, well, that I play and that really clicked for me, and I became a Sonic fan since. Um, I also just tackle a lot on terms of YouTube Sonic content, not only Sonic stop motions, but also doing let's play of Sonic games, talking about Sonic games in general, because it was mostly what was getting overall more views in terms of the content I was doing back then.
Makes
At my
sense.
young age, I was getting appeal of a lot of other young viewers as well that were just love playing with more Sonic stories and things like that.
I used to be desperate to try and find like different Sonic figures and stuff like that. So I feel like when I was like younger, when you had started your YouTube channel, I probably would have been really into those videos. So it's a shame that we met through Avengers and not Sonic figures and stuff like that. It's disappointing. But so obviously, because your YouTube channel's been around for quite a while, a lot of people wouldn't be as resilient as you to keep going. Because obviously, a lot of people say they get to 3 years and their channel hasn't like reached ridiculous levels, like 1 million subscribers or something crazy, right? That would normally
Yeah.
put people off. What helped you keep going, even if it wasn't a huge boom in growth?
For me, it was just because I was doing mostly for fun myself.
Hmm.
Like, when it comes to the point where I'm just no longer having fun with the content I'm doing, then that's when I stop doing that type of content and then just look for other things to do on my YouTube in general. Before Avengers, I took about a 3 or 4 year break on it because I was doing let's plays and try doing live streaming as well of games, but those didn't really took off. So I was kind of a bit of like, I spent a lot of experimenting, but I just wasn't sure what to do moving forward. But
Cool.
I always had the interest on just keep going, seeing what eventually clicks, and that's when Avengers eventually clicked.
Well, I mean, so I ended up getting your like live stream comeback then with Assemble for Charity. That feels like quite a big deal to me. I ended up like low key getting the return of your streaming career without even realizing it. So what sort of
Yeah.
content do you prefer doing then? Because obviously you make a lot of videos, but you don't. You seemed, if you don't mind me mentioning this, you seemed a bit more nervous to be doing the streaming on Assemble for Charity and stuff like that. So would you say videos are more your sort of, strength?
Yeah, I feel more comfortable with videos because I can edit any kind of errors or mispronunciations or misspellings or things like that. And also just because I have more control of everything rather than on live, I may get interrupted or have to do something. So whereas with editing, I can always just take a moment and work on everything. And I'm just really passionate about video editing as well. It's like my most experience, I think.
Well, I used to come to you a lot for my YouTube content as well. So if anyone who doesn't know, for behind the scenes little bit of knowledge, Sonic, like I would say that people seem to think like obviously Hyrule has been so helpful. In regards to my YouTube stuff, but before Hyrule, even right now, even Sonic has helped me a ridiculous amount with YouTube stuff. So I would say that Sonic is definitely one of my big YouTube mentors. So if any credit goes to anything that I do, Sonic's got to at least get half the credit. I would give him 75% though, just to not give Hyrule too much. So. Um, so obviously,
Wow.
with that in mind, would you, if Avengers was in a position where it closed its doors tomorrow, for example, right? Can't make any more content for some reason. The marketplace just boop, it all goes. What do you think you'd do after that? Would you go on another break till your calling came along, or is there sort of something in your head in case that ever happened?
Um, That's a very good question. I'll still cover probably other superhero games. I do want to cover things like, for example, the new Guardians of the Galaxy game.
Mm.
I do have interest in the game Gotham Knights, so I've been always exploring to continue at least on the superhero topic now that I cover Avengers. But I think it depends where I am when that happens, because maybe I have a job somewhere else or something. Like the only way that probably would give me a real hard pause on YouTube would probably be like if I end up in this big other job that I have to do video editing as well.
I mean, that sounds like the perfect job for you, right? With anything to do with video
Yeah.
editing, because like, what job do you do at the moment, if you don't mind me asking, or are you searching?
I'm searching at the moment. I used to do a lot of videos for weddings, and I did a lot of editing those videos as well. I recorded them and I did a lot of edits for them. But with the whole pandemic thing, well, everything just took a halt break because obviously no weddings during the whole lockdowns thing.
Mm.
So now I'm just being exploring. I kind of want to do something else different, so I'm just exploring where to go next now.
Well, that's great. I mean, remind me, to hire you when I'm getting married. I'll bring you over to the UK and everything. It'll be a good excuse. I'll be like, look, I know it's quite expensive to pay for the travels, but I really trust this guy. Okay, let's. It'll be a good excuse. So obviously,
It's a good
so
excuse, yeah.
with that sort of covering content creation, we'll go into sort of like the inspiration for content. Is there any sort of YouTubers in the Avengers community that you've kind of looked at for, inspiration with your videos? I know you said you've been looking through videos in the Avengers category. Was there any sort of YouTubers in this community that made you go, huh, okay, that's really cool?
I think probably the one that really got my attention was High Rulers Assemble podcast because I saw like it was very different from everything else. Like he was actually covering reading the Avengers blog. It was so informative kind of content rather
Mm.
than just being pulling directly from the gameplay. So his channel always caught my attention even before I actually get to know him.
Oh Jesus! Don't tell him that. His head's only going to get bigger. So okay,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
he'll be
But it
making
is the truth.
he'll damn it, I'll have to edit this part out, it's fine. No, so obviously with that being Avengers, community wise, what about just YouTubers in general for inspiration for content and stuff like that?
Uh, wow. And specifically, I don't know if I can specifically think someone in mind. I think in terms of like the idea of the marketplace, which is from seeing different Fortnite YouTubers and Overwatch YouTubers, how they actively show skins and stuff like that. And I saw like the big demand for that. Those were the ones that really inspired me. Like, hey, Avengers kind of needs that type of content creator as well that shows the marketplace.
Mm. Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I had noticed a big influx of marketplace videos ever since you started like showing me, your ones. So I like to have a look at like Avengers marketplace stuff, and I'll see like that Fortnite-esque kind of marketplace content that you were talking about. But they had started after yours. Would you? And I don't want you to feel like you're saying this big headed, but would you say that you've kind of made a bit of a trend there with like marketplace type videos for Marvel's Avengers?
Um, that's a good question. I don't know. I don't want to say I'll take credit for that.
I don't blame you. It's quite like a big statement
Because
to
I mean, some
say.
people were covering the weekly blogs as well, and I guess it's part of the marketplace.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's a good way of thinking about it. Well, Sonic
And I
as
seen other one doing marketplace as well around my time. So
Well, Sonic, as humble as always, the king of the marketplace, as well as the most humble person I've ever met. Speaking of which, let's discuss your thoughts on Avengers as a whole. So, obviously, we're near the 1 year mark. What would you say your thoughts were before Avengers came out? what would you say your thoughts were sort of in the launch time period? To be honest, in my opinion, probably one of the worst periods of the game, just because everyone was obviously, witnessing the bugs and stuff like that. And then, what is your opinion like right now? We've obviously just passed Cosmic Cube.
Uh, well, before the game came out, I actually wasn't that interested on the game just yet. When I saw like the first E3 trailer, like I wasn't very interested on it. Maybe it was because of the lack of Hawkeye in the trailer. It was also because at that time we had gone through, as a Hawkeye fan, the Hawkeye wasn't like in the movie Infinity War. So then I saw like he was missing also on this game's trailer. It's like, oh, here we go again. Hawkeye's missing. So I was kind of one of those people that were like, where's Hawkeye? On when that first E3 trailer came up.
Mm.
And after that, it was I played the beta with some friends, but some friends who were very interested in the game. I just wanted to check it out. I enjoyed a lot the combat on the beta, but I wasn't too convinced just yet how the campaign mode was gonna be for the game. But then I saw a bit of footage of the campaign from the people that bought the game digital deluxe that got it like 72 hours earlier.
Yeah.
And it got my attention a lot. Like, wow, that story looks like there's a lot going on it. It looks pretty deep. And that's when I jumped in and got the game because I was gonna wait for Hawkeye to release, but then I saw like campaign was very interesting and so cinematic, so I went ahead and got it. And I was pretty satisfied with the game at launch because I really enjoyed the campaign. There was a few things like performance on PS4 when it launched,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially with that Modoc fight. But aside from that, I really enjoyed that. Apart from what was the other part of the question
So sorry.
after the lunch? Yeah.
Your thoughts on the game now. So in its current position, obviously we just passed the Cosmic Cube boss fight with Monica Rappuccini. You're one of your favourite characters. We'll go into that in a minute. What's your thoughts on the game right now?
I think the game has evolved quite a lot since compared to when we started out. I thought they definitely took a moment to like fix as much as they could at launch, and things got really felt pretty slow at first when
Mm.
we only just got Kate Bishop. I think we're in a better position now where we see like a lot of things going on, little events here and there. We got two characters now. Cosmic Cube. I really like Cosmic Cube as a way to wrap up the last stories that we have of the two operations.
Yeah, for sure.
And as a gameplay thing, it shows like they're definitely working on different ways for the game to have different gameplay for the boss fights. And I also felt that a little bit with the Red Room. I like that the Red Room had like a couple of obstacles and things happening around the rooms. So I think I'm very curious to see like how the game fully evolves with that kind of level design for Wakanda, because we basically seen a little glimpse of that with Red Room and Wakanda. So I think the game has improved a lot, and I'm very excited to see how far it goes.
So obviously, you spoke about you wanted to see where it evolves. Where do you think the game's going to be in a year or two time? Like, do you think we're going to get into a position where it's universally, sorry, beloved by everyone, sort of like a No Man's Sky situation, or do you see it being kind of like a game that only like a small group of people kind of like a very sort of underground sort of game? What do you think the game will be at, and where do you think the like public perception will be in like a year or two time?
That's a very good question and a very hard one. Um, I think we could. I could see both scenarios really. I think the overall community that still enjoys the game will be enjoying the game as it is. I think it will attract a few more players. I don't think it'll change completely the perception from the beginning, because unfortunately with these kinds of games, even on Destiny, you still have people um, that just drag Destiny from the very start and are still doing it,
Yeah.
and that's unfortunately from games as service games. Even games like Old Republic that has 10 years, you still have people complaining, "Oh, it's not quarter tree, Knights of the Old Republic tree." So
I'm
I think we'll be in a better state, but I don't think we're gonna completely like just completely wiped out the beginning.
I imagine, as like a moderator as well for their Discord, it must be so difficult seeing sort of like a lot of negative feedback all the time. Even though it's not aimed at you, obviously, it must be very difficult
Yeah.
seeing that kind of feedback on a game that you enjoy. Not in a sense of like, they're not allowed to say that, but obviously it's probably quite relentless. Like we'll go back a little bit to obviously you said
Mm-hmm.
you were waiting for Hawkeye. Hawkeye's war table, right, was a literally a nuke in this community. I would say, everyone left, right, and center was pretty upset about it for a number of different reasons. But as you, obviously being a Hawkeye fan, I'm assuming you enjoyed it, right?
I did. I
Mm.
thought it was great to see Lucky in there, see like little references to the comics, seeing that they use him on his shirt with hair skin instead of the ball look. Even I really enjoyed it.
So, with that in mind, then, how did it feel when, obviously, as a content creator and as well as a big part of this community, saw that the general public response was quite negative? A lot of pushback on it because it didn't feature like a teaser Black Panther or a glimpse of like a Spider-Man logo or like just more ahead. Because obviously a lot of like the criticism that I had witnessed was that with Kate's deep dive it had sent a tease for Clint's, so people were thinking it'd be the same setup. But obviously you being 100% happy with Clint and seeing the war table, how did it feel?
Um, it was hard because you're pretty excited. I was pretty excited with what I've seen, but obviously the community at that point wanted to see more of what's coming because at that point we all knew, well, Hawkeye's coming, so they wanted to see what else is coming, and it was hard because it's that it's meant to be the deep dive of Hawkeye rather than
Mm.
it's not a regular war table. So I was excited for what was shown there because it was meant to be just for Hawkeye. But I understand the side of the community that they wanted to see more of the game because they wanted to know more about the Omega level threats. They wanted to know that other characters are being worked on. Because I think it's kind of that reaction because there was a lot of still unknowns for people. People wanted to
Mm.
know um how was the game going, because that's one of the things is like there's always the fear in the community that the game's not doing good because there wasn't a roadmap back then. That was the main reason. I think if we had the roadmap, I think we probably would not have that reaction, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a fair analysis to make, to be honest, about that whole situation. So, obviously, we've just spoken there about Hawkeye, one of your favourite characters, at least in this game. But let's also
Yeah.
speak about Monica Rappaccini, who you have made very obvious to not just me as a friend, but also just anyone in general who knows you, that Monica is one of your favourite characters in this game. Now, what is it about Monica Rappaccini, who before this game was not an unknown to big comic fans, but quite an unknown, very unknown to mainstream attention? What is it about Monica Rappaccini that just draws you to her?
Well, she was unknown to me. I had no clue about her in the comics. I didn't even know she was a comic character either, to be fair. um but she got my attention because she felt, I think that was perhaps the reason, because she felt like a unique character, like a character created for the story.
Hmm.
I think the thing that really sold to me the character as well was the mission with Black Widow when they had that interaction where it's the game really establishes that a lot of what's going on it's because of her rather than Modok himself.
Mm.
And that's ultimately what we find out in the end, that everything, a lot of it was just Monica manipulating the situation. And I don't know, I just find the character interesting because she's just trying to like learn more about science and studying and things like that. She's not doing it because she just wants to be evil kind of thing or just control people. She just
Yeah.
wants to learn more. And then she learns about this whole future thing, so she obviously gets obsessed with that she's the only one that's going to find out the solution.
So yeah, it's
It's
like
just
a
all
mad
about for her for
scientist.
finding things. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I totally understand that. I know that you like sort of a diva-esque attitude as well, how she handles things and
Yeah.
stuff. I know that Georgia too. I mean, because a lot of people, when they see a character like a villain at least, who's sort of so cool, it kind of gives you that kind of confidence, a bit of inspiration and stuff like that. And I noticed that like a lot
Yeah.
you have a lot more confidence in the community as a whole, and the more confidence you built, the more you were like, "Let's go, Monica." You know what I mean? And it was quite interesting to just see you
Yeah.
grow into that. So speaking of the community, now the conversation you've probably not been able to have in public before. The
Oh.
community, the community, the community, the community is very sort of split down the middle. I would say so. What is your thoughts
Hmm.
on the Marvel's Avengers community as a whole?
As a whole, um, I mean, I think there's a lot of divisions, but that I don't think should be really, because I think everyone comes from the same Marvel passion. Everyone ultimately just wants the Marvel game they want. So I
Mm,
think that's pretty much what happens, because it's eventually everyone has a different vision of what kind of game they want. And I think it's fine that everyone has this passion. I think the only thing is that I think people should probably just respect each other more. Like everyone has like their own personal favorites, personal favorite Marvel stuff in general.
yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, the community, a lot of the times you sort of either get really good conversations or you get a lot of hostility. Obviously, you've had to see it quite a lot as a moderator. How does it kind of impact you? Because we spoke about the Hawkeye reaction, and obviously, your sort of disappointment that people didn't share your level of excitement, but you also understood it. If, say someone comes into, and this isn't just a moderating question, it's just an example. If someone comes into the
Yeah.
Discord or under one of your YouTube comments and just seems really bummed out, does it kind of impact you negatively to see so much negativity quite often?
Um. Yeah. It can. It can sometimes make you just have to like, okay, I need to step away for a moment and take a breather, because it's not because I don't it bothers me or anything, because I know it's not targeted at me and I understand like the whole passion thing, but eventually it can get a bit exhausting seeing like constant negativity
Hmm.
for something that it's ultimately a game that you just enjoy, and you don't want that constant negativity take out from what you're enjoying, not only just for the game, but because of the whole aspect of doing content creation, the whole community, like everything's connected.
Exactly. Yeah. So
So you don't want
yeah.
that to be impacted.
Well, I mean, and that's another thing as well is that, a lot of people, as much as, criticism they may give on the game or negativity, a lot of what they do and a lot of this, obviously this community rides on this game's sort of existence, right? But a lot of content creators and stuff like that, a lot of, positive and negative voices do rely on Marvel's Avengers. So it's quite interesting that we all want the same thing, but obviously, like you said earlier, there's a bit of a divide there, probably too divisive than it really needs to be. Do you think that I've just 1 minute. I've just had a notification pop up, so I'm gonna put do not disturb on because I've learnt my lesson from the previous podcast that I was in. I apologise, everyone. So, with with that, obviously, it you mentioning that it can be a bit stressful. Is there any sort of times, especially during whether it's YouTube, whether it's moderating, that you've kind of wanted to take a step back and a bit of a break, not from the game, but just from being active in the community?
uh, yeah, I think everyone kind of reaches that point, regardless of, I think, with any community.
Hmm.
Like for me, for example, before this, I was involved a lot on Twitter online with Star Wars communities and things like that. Eventually, I just took a step away and just try not to get myself too involved, but like just really just make sure that I'm enjoying still what I really like about that franchise, or in this case, the game. I think it's always just healthy to just take a break when you feel like you're seeing the same thing all the time. It's not so much because of negativity, but because your everyday 24/7 is about the game
Hmm.
sometimes. Because you're like seeing it everywhere on your Twitter, on your Discord, on your YouTube. It becomes like the whole thing, and eventually you start circling through the same topics all over again, and it can get exhausting.
I can definitely see what you mean by the fact of like people. Obviously, you see the same names almost every day talking about Marvel's Avengers, and you do obviously imagine that like it's because there's a passion there, but it must get very tiring for almost everyone, which is why I imagine that a lot of this community is probably comes across quite angry because a lot of people are quite tired because it's quite relentless. You know what I mean? How so what sort of advice would you give to those people? Like obviously you've mentioned like take a break, but if it starts to impact the game as well, what's your kind of advice with that? Is it like move on to a different game for a bit, or?
Um, yeah, I would say that, like, at least have like a side game that you may be able to play.
Mm,
Um, just something to distract yourself a little bit, because we always need a little break from just seeing the same topics, regardless of positive or negative. It can get tiring for people just seeing like the same topics over and over again, because eventually some of those things that people are talking, well, they will take time to be addressed, like say talking about omega level threats. Eventually those will come out. Talking about an outfit that's coming later on. So I think just looking for other games, or getting yourself involved in some other communities, maybe even talking with other members of the Avengers community about other things, about other games. Sometimes on Discord we start talking about, that Nintendo game or that Nintendo console, things like that.
talking about the
So
new
always just try
Switch.
to, yeah, just try to get yourself involved in other type of conversations, get to know people. Sometimes we may not agree, people may not agree with things on the Avengers game, but you may agree on other stuff. You might like other games together and get to make friends that way.
It's a good sort of idea to have, because obviously if there's something in common we all do have, it's Avengers. So if you can find friendships through
Hmm.
the game, even if there's a disagreement there, but just realize that you both sort of like the same things in different aspects, then you're right, you can make a lot of friends that way. So I think that's really important. So with that in mind, then, with obviously talking about Avengers and you know Omega level threats coming out in the future, negatives and positives, what's one thing in Avengers you would like to see, and what's one thing that would put you off the game if it came into the game, if you know what I mean?
That's an interesting question. I just want to see more story overall in the game. I really hope we. I think from all the stories, I just want to see the Kree invasion story unfold. I
Mm.
hope we get to that point where we uh get to move forward that story, because obviously we're now like building up with all the characters with Black Panther and things like that. But I hope we get to that point that we've been building up to.
So
Um,
now, yeah, I was gonna say you got to get to the
yeah.
negative one now.
In terms of the, you mean like an aspect that I wouldn't like if it happened?
So if they added something, right, and it can be as drastic or as not drastic, it's completely personal. So, for example, I asked Suki, if the game went down a road where it was kind of like it didn't focus on the story anymore, it was just adhering to a bunch of the louder people in the community, that would completely shut her off. So, is there one of those sort of scenarios that the game would do that would put you off?
Uh, well, the lack, if they start moving away from story and not doing that much story to them, um, it will put me off. I don't think I would leave the game because we kind of like invested a lot of time on it by now.
Hmm.
But it will definitely like put me off a little bit. The excitement for like new stuff because I like seeing the story build. Granted, I don't mean like everything has to have story kind of thing, but I still want to see like at least we get some kind of story content, at least a year or something.
We've spoken about lore quite a lot, so I know how important that is to you, just behind the scenes and stuff like that. So,
Yeah,
would you say that you being a YouTuber for Marvel's Avengers, obviously you're on the Discord, you speak, you've made a lot of friends through Marvel's Avengers. Would you say you've got sort of like a personal attachment to the game? Like, because for me, if the game did just vanish tomorrow, it's not something I would ever be able to forget because of how much has come from the game. Would you say you're the same?
oh yeah, the game has definitely left an impact in meeting a lot of people, making friends, meeting you, making friends with you, other people in the community, involving myself in content creation. And I think it's also because the game, I it was the game I invested more during the whole pandemic. That also why I got so invested on it. It
Yeah.
was like that thing that helped me cope with the whole lockdowns and everything was going on, the uncertainty of that year. It really pulled that distraction, became like that source of involvement.
Yeah, it was. I mean, like I spent Christmas time on the official Discord just talking to people because that was by
Yeah,
September onwards that was it. I mean that was sort of the friends, the only ones you could see, speak to. And it was,
yeah.
exactly like you said, it's just that kind of connects with as many people as you can through this game. So, with that in mind, is there anything that you would like to tell the community if they're feeling a little bit, trapped during this time, because obviously we've got the pandemic and things like that. If they, is there any sort of like a pep talk you would want to give people?
You want me to be a Captain America here, pep talk?
That's literally what I was going for. I was going to see if because obviously you mentioned Avengers is helping, but like you said, some people may get just a bit bored with Avengers every so often. So what sort of suggestions would you give to those kind of people? It's quite a deep question.
I would say just look for something that passionates you, something to practice or learn about. When I'm not doing video editing or things like that, sometimes I'm not feeling doing anything at all. You sometimes get to the point where like, oh, I'm just not feeling like playing a game. I don't feel like video editing. I don't feel like even logging in on the internet. And for me, that kind of other distraction I do is drawing things. A lot of people don't know about that, but I do drawings just for my personal hobby. It's kind of like a stress reliever for me when I'm feeling like I'm just not feeling like doing anything. So I think just looking for something that you can learn online, whether it's drawing, even video editing itself, making music, any kind of hobby that you can learn and come up with to keep you entertained. Or in the case of video games, if Avengers not clicking for you, I would say look for other games that are very similar to it. If you're interested in gear type of game, like you were interested in Avengers, then you can go on to other games like Division 2 or Destiny and check them out. Or if you're looking for a community aspect, go for more MMO type of game. Like I sometimes go to Star Wars The Old Republic when I'm feeling I want to play a bit something different, where I see different people with different characters and chat about something completely different.
It's great. I mean, it's great advice. You mentioned there though that, and I have to rip this out because I didn't know this myself about the drawing aspect of things. Would you say you're a good drawer? Did you take any art classes, or is it just sort of something a bit of
Oh,
doodle on the side? How what level of drawing are we talking about here? Are you like Picasso? You know what I'm saying?
no, no, no. It's pretty basic. I just keep practicing on my own. I didn't take any art classes or anything like that. It's just completely on my own. I wouldn't really take a job for it. I don't think I'm really that great or anything for it, but it's just more of a stress reliever, really.
Well, it's good to know. I mean, it's good to know that you've got, so anything that if you get stressed out, you can go to straight away. What, like, I'm really
Hmm.
curious about this though, because this is something new for me. Like, what sort of stuff do you draw? Like, I'm gonna try and dig into this a little bit.
Just mostly fan art I've been doing. Sometimes just different characters. Sometimes I draw um my original characters I done in Star Wars: The Old Republic. Other times I drawn a few Avengers characters. I draw Captain America from the game. Um,
You're gonna have to send me that.
Batman. Different things like that.
I mean, that's awesome. Now, as soon as this show's over, I'm gonna ask you for all of these because I'm actually genuinely really excited and curious to see it. So, but that's good though. It's good to have so many different things you can do because obviously, during this pandemic as well, and the fact that you are a content creator and you love video editing, I imagine it's good to sometimes get away from the computer, and Discord, YouTube, and stuff like that, and just do something different. So sometimes, the
Hmm.
the lesson there is essentially don't stay, in one place when it comes to a passion or a hobby because eventually it's going to burn you out. So it's good to find different things and palate cleansers, so to speak, which is
Yeah.
good. So I think I'll be honest. I just have one more question. The build
Uh
up,
oh.
the build up question.
Uh
For
oh.
people who are unaware behind the scenes, uh, I had been teasing Sonic since I asked him about doing community voices. That I have one question that I have been waiting to share, and this question is it's pretty cool.
Oh.
What's the end goal, Sonic? Where do you want to be in 5 years? And this can be a YouTube goal. This can be you're living a totally different life. This could be like I am the president of the world. Like literally anything. Where do you see yourself in
The
about 5 years'
president.
time?
Wow.
I know that's right.
I Well, first of all, I want to, in 5 years from now, I hope to move out to the United States.
That's
Um,
the trick of
but
becoming
where do I end
president of the
up?
world. There we go.
No. But where do I end up on work? I don't know. I would like to be involved more in the game industry or the movie industry, hopefully by then in some kind of capacity. In terms of YouTube, um, I don't know, actually.
It's an interesting one. Obviously, I've given you such a far gap there. Um, I mean,
Yeah, 5 years is a lot.
5 years is a lot. That's right. But it's one of those things that sometimes people have a plan and sometimes people don't. And I hope that if there's anyone who I've met through this community who in 5 years' time is absolutely smashing it, I do indeed hope it's you. You melted my heart earlier when you said I met you through this game. I was like, I started like crying. It was a beautiful speech. So
I didn't hear the crying.
child, trust me, I've been holding in the tears the entire time. So I'm gonna do the outro. So thank you, Sonic, for just being a part of this episode today. I imagine it's quite, I imagine, you haven't done a lot of these things often. Obviously, you don't stream very often and stuff like that. But hopefully, people have gotten to be able to see, a different side of you. That you're incredibly hardworking for starters with all you do. So thank you for everything you do on YouTube to make people smile, but also just on the Avengers Discord as well. People don't know this. I won't ask you about it either, just for any like potential NDA breakage somehow. But thank you for all everything you do on there. I imagine it is a very difficult job to do. People, this is just a word to everyone who's watching right now. Sonic, Cow, Captain America, Calyx, sorry, not Cow. I should probably Calyx, Captain America, Zero. They are all just like can't speak. Just like the developers, just like the community team on this game. All human beings. Be nice. Just be nice. It costs nothing. Be nice, forehead. It's not. It's crazy how easy it is. So Sonic, have you got any final words? You got any final words?
Yeah, just to add to that, we all really want the same thing at the end of the day. What we do there is just make sure that all your people's feedback is heard, pass along as much as we can, as we see in terms of the bugs and reports and feedbacks, reaction to things. Ultimately, we're just there to help keep growing the community as much as we can, because games of this type of games as a service, they strive and live through the community at the end of the day. So it's all the work is just really for the community.
For sure. I've definitely, I've been, I mentioned this on the High Ruler episode, that a lot of these, games as a service, looter games, rely very heavily on the community aspect. So, if we can all get along, this game, believe it or not, with like grouped up together with feedback, and just a positive vibe all round, will motivate the developers to keep just working hard to make the Avengers game that they say, we deserve. A lot of people enjoy this game, but they're always trying to make it better, and I think that's important. So thank you for watching today. I will leave Sonic's social medias down in the description below. His Twitter, YouTube channel. That's about it, isn't it, really, when it comes to your socials? I think it's Twitter and YouTube. Well, YouTube and Twitter in priority order.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to shout out?
No, yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me. This has been a really fun experience. I always wonder if someone was going to interview me one day, so here it is.
Who would have thought that it would be me, of all people, who are interviewing? Literally 10 minutes before doing this, I was spamming summon Spider-Man in Marvel's Avengers announcement on Discords, but it's just look, I'm desperate. Okay, it's fine. I'll cry about that afterwards as well. So obviously all my socials will be down below. Thank you all for supporting this series thus far. It's been just amazing to be able to do this, speak to amazing content creators such as Sonic over here, such as Suki, such as High Ruler, and I really hope I get to continue doing this. Episode 4's guest has already been booked in. I will be revealing that on Twitter later, or already by the time you've seen this. So if you want to check that out, my Twitter will be down in the description down below. Thank you, Sonic, for joining, and I will see you all next time. Goodbye. Sonic, go on.
See ya.
They did it.
Thank you.
I need to stop telling guests to say goodbye, because everyone seems to get it. All right, I'll see you guys later.